Thanks for turning up. I thought there'd be like Neil and Vito and Jack and Melissa over there, but I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much. The previous speakers ended with talking about finding your why, and that's kind of the theme of my talk today. I thought I've been in these sorts of conferences so often. The clicker isn't working. So often, and I've been bored out of my head because people sit here and show you work that they've done. They talk about clients. I've got no work, no clients, and there isn't a single post-it note in my presentation or index card to make my design business look cool and relevant. And as soon as the clicker starts working, I might get on with it. And I think I'll tell you a little bit about my journey before that, because I've been in this industry, and I'll start with a warning. I've been in this industry for 27 years. I guess my first job in this industry was in 1990, and at that time the Prime Minister said this, and you know, I finished high school, I went straight into the industry because two universities here rejected me, RMIT and Swinburne, and 25 years later they come and I do lectures there. You know, the Prime Minister said this, so we left school thinking, what the fuck, you know, we had to have this recession, and at that time, you know, those of us who remember, we were really good with our hands, but then all of a sudden, almost overnight, we had to be really good with a mouse. And you know, we went from illustrating and bromiding to pasting up to figuring out how to use a mouse, which is really just, you know, was almost bipolar. Then I eventually did get accepted by a university. I did an advertising degree, which taught me one wonderful thing, and that was I never wanted to work in advertising, and I'm really grateful for that. It was worth the $25,000 or whatever it cost to do a degree at RMIT. And at that time, in '94, I fell into this thing called the internet, which is brand new and really wonderful. And I think I was talking to Jack last night, I was saying it was one of the most wonderful experiences of my life that really pivoted, cliche, catapulted my career and taught me so much because I got to work with entrepreneurs. We learnt about failing, which is what the previous speakers were talking about. We were punching above our weight. But more importantly, it taught me that I really like working on this edge, which is what those guys were talking about. Because I think Kurt Vonnegut said that when you work on the edge, you can see the middle really clearly, and the middle is fucking boring. It's exciting being on the edge because you learn, you embrace failure, you fall over, you celebrate it, and you celebrate success as well. And you're the one that's really learning. So we were doing interactive TV prototypes in 1997, 98 for Telstra. We were doing UX design, but it wasn't called UX design. Back then it was, you know, it's called usability and UI, and we were learning redundant languages and all of that. It was a lot of fun. And I met my wife there, which is a plus, I guess. This thing happened, and this really sort of blew up because it taught us about redundancies. In the last 27 years, I've been made redundant 5 times. And I mentor a lot of students. Students? I didn't say students earlier. 1. Awesome. Get used to redundancy. It's a fact of life, you know. It taught me that it's just a natural part of business, and mergers and acquisitions and VC, and then a bunch of idiots did this, and that really taught me to look at the world in a different place, in a different way. Around that time, I read a book called No Logo by Naomi Klein. Anyone? Yeah, it was 2000, I think. It was around that time. And I read that thinking, oh my God, of course, sweatshops? Are you serious? Had no idea, you know, child of the early 70s. You know, I grew up watching television commercials saying, I want to wear a pair of Levi's. I read Naomi Klein's book, and it really, again, another epiphany for me that I thought that I want to use my skills, whatever talent I have, and whatever nous of entrepreneurship that I have for good. And I didn't really grasp it back then. And I guess the theme of this story is how I found that. I really didn't grasp it back then. Around this time, you know, this thing happened, and kind of the mainstream kind of caught up with the internet. They realised that it wasn't about technology; it was actually about us as human beings. And it was a very dormant part of the internet's era. Hey, we talked about the GFC just then, and in this period, in the, you know, 2010, 2014. I really realised that the internet isn't on our desktops, it's on our laptops, it's in our pockets, and it's there and it's there to stay. And during the GFC and around this time, probably made one of my largest investments, and I then joined Tank, which is where we arrive today as well. More recently, we've seen the rise of what we call good business, and I'm the first person to be very cynical of that. I think one of my collaborative partners, Mike, knows that, who's here. We see the rise of B corporations, social entrepreneurs, and we've recently become accredited as a B Corp, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as well, being very cynical about it too. It's a nice contradiction. But I'm the one that did an advertising degree and didn't work in advertising. So these are the kind of roles that I've had over the 27-year period, not in any specific order. I've owned an agency, which I currently do. I've worked in strategy roles, creative roles. I love my early tech roles, and digital agencies have kind of been a real theme in my career as well. More recently, I've co-founded apps, an iOS app, and even more recently, I've launched an online course that teaches strategy to young designers in our industry as well. So I'm really experimenting with where I guess my interests are, where my passion is, where my money comes from, and where my attention goes as well. And I've certainly done that throughout my career. In 2014, my business partners and I sort of sat together in tears and said, enough's enough. Our business started in 20 years ago, 2 people, and ballooned at 30, and then we deliberately culled down to 10, which is the size of our business now. We were saying things like, why the fuck am I turning up to work and I'm just bitter all the time? Why are we doing this? As business owners, we should be grateful that we have this thing, this kind of machine that not only creates money but also creates creativity and some cool shit that you can put on Instagram, oh hello, and all of that stuff, Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we happy? Why are we sitting here and just bitter, angry at our clients and all of that? Why are we not inspired? And at this point, I realised that I wasn't on that edge anymore. I was actually just part of the middle. The business owners in this room, who, if it's a creative agency, we're all the same. We're all the same, all the design-based businesses. We all do the same thing. We just kind of nuance it in a slightly different way. We all do really great work, but we're all kind of the same. And I've got a quote later which I'll talk about. And we had this sort of I'll be frank, it was a toxic culture. There was just this whinge. And again, the business owners in this room will tell you that there are 2 really bad things about business: clients and the people that you hire, right? And part of that whinging, and I also looked in the mirror, part of that whinging was me, me and my business partners as well, just sitting there thinking, we've got to stop this whinging. And we had these shitty clients, right? We had these clients who just treated us like crap. And let me tell you how much fun it is to sack a client. It's so good. It is, if I recommend it to anyone, just try it. We had these clients who would say things like, I could have done that. Do you really think you deserve senior in front of your job title? Clients said that to my staff, yeah. I could get my people to do that better than what your people did, Really awful. I've had clients who espouse really high moral, ethical values, so greenwash, purpose wash values, and behave in exactly the opposite way. Exactly the opposite way. And as you can tell, I believe, you probably gathered, actions speak louder than words, right? We did have a plethora of clients. Hello. Do you want to come around here? You all right? No. And I kind of realised that, hey, let's face it, most marketing directors, marketing experts out there, they know fuck all about marketing. They do. I've had to work with a marketing director of a very large international organisation. She was hired in that position. She was a full-time photographer. No disrespect to photographers. All right. So the CEO said, "Oh, you're creative. You're taking pictures over there. You can be our marketing director." And the poor woman, she was in this role, and she had to run the marketing function of this large, international, well-known organisation, build a team, make money, because that's what marketing directors do. They have to make money, and we had to deal with these sorts of clients. Not all of them, but some of them. And our business model is the way you make money, hadn't changed in 20 years. Business model was there was a client, and this is a very high-level overview. There's a brief. There's like this seniority from the, the MD, the ECD, and all that, the juniors, and then you make money. You execute, and irrespective of if it's Nike or Joe Blow around the corner with 3 people, fish and chip shop, it's the same kind of business model. Generally speaking, as I mentioned, high-level overview. Our business model hadn't changed in 20 years. And we were good people, We were really good people. We were kind, humble, but we just realised we came to this point where, we just said enough. We began by writing all these insights, and those of you in a kind of design research roles and human-centered design, and strategy, the power of insight in research, because research is useless unless you gather some real human insights. We just wrote all these insights on the wall, and if we keep on doing what we're doing, it's a fact. We'll just keep on getting what we're getting. And my friend actually said this. An old friend of mine said this. We were out and we were drunk and we were kids, early 20s, which was 5 years ago, and we were acting like idiots. And one of my friends looked at us and said, "How can I soar like an eagle when I'm surrounded by turkeys?" He was referring to us, and I wrote that on the wall as well. And I referred to just the cycle of the community that was surrounding us at the time. Tim Brown, good person from IDEO, has said this. It's not us versus them, or even us on behalf of them. It's us with them. Those of you who work in client services, it all begins and it's all warm and fuzzy, isn't it? It's all lovey-dovey. We're shared values. We're aligned. We're just good people. We want to do creative work. Hello. And then it all then, over time, sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 3 years, it kind of turns transactional. It's like you walk into a shop, say, "Here's the brief, thanks, see you later. I'll call you." "No, I'm not signing a retainer." It just kind of, but it's about this idea of us with them. It's almost this false notion that we espouse to, this aspiration that makes us feel really good as creative leaders, that we feel like we're partners with our clients. It's not, we're mostly transactional most of the time. And the reality, what I mentioned earlier, everyone else was doing the same thing, and I'm just checking time, I have 10 minutes. I also asked myself, why do we need hierarchy? I talked about that hierarchy. Why do we need that? Why is that necessary? There's accountability and responsibility, but why do we need hierarchy? I didn't want to be in the business, going back to Naomi Klein's book, I didn't want to be in the business of creating junk mail. I didn't want to be in the business of doing advertising. I didn't want to be in the business of just selling shit, moving widgets, not interested. And then I wanted to also stand for something that I believed in, because if I stood for something that I believed in, the people who work for me, I'll attract good people, and they would believe in that as well. But also I'd learn from what they believe in as well, and I'd learn something. And the things that I believe in, they're all written on our website as well, and they're written here as well. And one of the other things that we said, generally, those creative businesses, the way they market themselves is they show the work they do. Yeah, they show post-it notes on walls, workshops happening, Sharpies, some really beautiful creative work, and that's generally their marketing strategy. And I felt that we need to stop talking about ourselves and start talking about the people, not our clients, the people that me and you as a client and designer relationship, the people we are communicating with. They're the people we need to start talking about in our marketing. And that's what we do now. This is on the cover, this is on our website as well. We realised that we have this opportunity, we have this influence with executives, senior people in organisations, even if they are photographers parading as marketing directors, we have this influence to actually help them become better organisations. Instead of just being reactionary and accepting the shitty briefs they write and just taking the money and hoping that they'll give us another shitty brief and take the money again. That's an enormous amount of responsibility when we realise it's a simple realisation, but when we realise that, that's an enormous amount of responsibility that we put on ourselves, I believe. And the other thing was, hold on a sec, This is our business. It's not theirs. There are no external shareholders. We're a private business. So we can do whatever the fuck we want. And that is a simple but very profound realization. So I'll take you through quickly the changes that we made. We started a new business. We got blank sheets of paper out and we rewrote our business model and business strategy. I wrote a first draft of 2,000 words, our purpose, why we do what we do, and that first draft is on our website at wearetank.com.au/purpose, and the headline is to do meaningful work. We wanted to embrace diversity, equality and inclusion. We wanted to not create junk mail. We believe that women can own the notion of strong as much as men do. Trust me, I do CrossFit. I train with 8 amazing powerlifting, Olympic lifting women who inspire me every morning. They did this morning, they will tomorrow. I have 2 daughters. They're going to run stuff, yeah, as far as I'm concerned. So will my son. I have 3 children. We work with purpose-driven leaders. We created that term. I'm sure someone else created it, but we decided that was the term. We articulated in detail. Yes, we created personas. Her name's Fiona. She lives in Northcote and all of that. And we just know who she is. And we talk to her about the people that we're going to communicate with. We don't talk to her about her, and we don't talk to her about us in our marketing. We achieved B Corp accreditation, and again, I mentioned that I'm a bit cynical about it because you get a stamp, a B Corp stamp, but behaviour, actions speak louder than words, and that's what I guess I'm working on with my team this year. Is to say, I essentially say to them, prove it, prove that you earned this, because B Corp accreditation sounds and feels good. But we're doing lots of different things, and we've partnered with Purposeful to create a podcast called Humans of Purpose, where we interview purpose-driven leaders and we talk to them about their shit, what inspires them, that stuff, across the board. We got rid of all our services and we created programs, we created products, and we use human-centered design methods to execute them. When a client comes to us and asks for a rate card, and I say we don't quote by the hour, they say just give us your rate card anyway. I put all the job titles, which I make up, on one column, and in the other column I put $50. And at the bottom there's a little disclaimer that says we don't charge by the hour, and I send it to them. And we get lots of briefs. They send us lots of briefs because we're cheap, right? They think we're cheap. I then quote it and it's really expensive. And it's like $500,000. And what they say, this goes back to my marketing director side, what they say is it's not going to take that long. I'm like, we don't quote by the hour, this is just what it costs. They say, how do you come up with the costs? I said, I just think about what you're willing to pay for this job. And I reckon you're willing to pay this much. Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. But we don't quote by the hour anymore at all. We don't timesheet, we got rid of timesheets, all of that. If there's a value exchange, we decide on the multiplier because, a few slides back, it's our fucking business. We can decide how we run it. We decide on the multiplier, and the price of that latte is what you're willing to pay for that latte. If it's $8, if you're willing to pay $8, that's what it costs. Simple. We operate in this area. I won't talk about our work, I promise that. We created this thing called Hello Tomorrow. We experimented, a few years ago it was a magazine. We thought, well, let's do a magazine. And it was really cool. We learnt so much. Financially it was a failure, but we learnt so much about content, about publishing. We networked, we created events for it. We won a couple of clients out of it. That's now turned into what we call a leadership platform, which used to be an e-newsletter that just went to show people our work, but now it talks to purpose-driven leaders, and it's automated, so there's 2 years worth of content in that platform. So if you subscribe today, you get the first email, but if you subscribed last year, you're well down the track. And it teaches you about Simon Sinek and human-centered design and our diversity and inclusion and amazing powerlifting, Olympic lifting, CrossFit women and all the things we stand for. So hopefully, by the end of it, or during it, you pop up and say, hey, I really want to work with you. And that happens all the time. We get a call from a subscriber and that says, I love all the stuff you send me, actually provides so much value that we want to work together. And that's good marketing. We restructured our entire team. That's painful, that's sad, but again, I've been made redundant 5 times. That's reality of business. We have a mindfulness coach and a leadership coach because we want to be really great mindful leaders. So we do have one person who teaches us about mindfulness. He's a leadership expert. He works with the SAS, etc. So he's not a fucking yoga person. He's like serious, right? He's like serious mindfulness and leadership. And we have a separate leadership coach just on leadership and business. And they guide us, they push us, they punch us, and all of that. We have this idea of no room for rock stars, so which is, I don't kind of buy that sort of stuff. There's no room for rock stars. We sacked the creative director. That was my job title. I just got rid of it. I don't believe that in a creative business that you have this pyramid thing where this one person at the top approves everything. That quashes creativity from young people. The best ideas are probably from the youngest person in the room. The people who are out there experiencing life. Fuck, I'm 43, I've got 3 kids, I've got no time. We went to the VIP dinner last night. I left early because I'm shattered. So we have this flat autonomous structure now. We removed the term junior and senior from all our job titles. There's no hierarchy, so when a young person gets hired, there's no such thing as a junior designer or a junior creative in our business. They just have the same job title as the most senior person, creative person in that stream. So communication designer is the term we use. Rasheen is probably one of our most senior communication designers. If you were to start tomorrow as a graduate, you'd have the same job title as her. Different accountabilities, because that's good leadership. Different responsibilities, they're 2 different things. I urge you to understand the difference. But we remove that. No late nights, 6:30 probably is the latest we'll ever work. If anyone's there later, like the shit hits the fan. It's crazy. And we measure happiness every single day. We actually have a happiness score, a percentage. And we went from 51%, that's pretty shit, isn't it? 51% to 75% in 6 months. And it's really fucking hard to move the needle. If you score a 10 today, we're not going to go to 80. It goes to 75.1, right? It's really hard to move the needle, and that's deliberate. Because the idea is that we're just happy all the time, yeah? And happiness is up to you to define, yeah? That's my warning. We also work 70% agile now and about 30% waterfall project management methodologies. And I really believe in removing the sense of seniority where we want to grow a team of creative leaders. Last slide. Business model that we're experimenting with is making money from content, different sources, digital products, partners, clients, hoping to make that the smallest slice of our pie, collaborators, autonomous teams, so no creative director, they're autonomous, so you 4 are the team, you have different accountabilities, just do the job, yeah. We have that podcast, Humans of Purpose, which is launching this week. We have programs, not services, which you make money on, and we have multiple locations, different co-working spaces, a HQ in Melbourne, and kind of core teams and collaborative teams. We're just experimenting with it, and we'll just see how it works. But that's our why. Thank you.
Thank you.